We are speaking with the Democrats, and some very good things could happen with respect to health care. I will say this, just hang in there, because I think a lot of good things are going to happen. That's all I can say. I mean, I think a lot of good things could happen, and that could also pertain to health care.
That's President Trump in the Oval Office signaling a willingness to negotiate with Democrats as the shutdown extends into day 7 this morning. The president wrote on Truth Social last night, "I'm happy to work with Democrats on their failed health care policies or anything else. But first, they must allow our government to reopen," a sentiment which John Thune made to me on Sunday as well. The House-passed government funding bill failed again in the Senate last night by a vote of 52 to 42. Senate Majority Leader John Thune is expected to force another vote on government funding today. Joining me now is the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget President, Maya MacGuineas. Maya, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. And you do such fine work in terms of watching our debt and spending. What do you see happening longer term as this government stays closed for business?
Well, government shutdowns are never a sensible way to run the government, obviously. This leaves our government fighting while our enemies around the world, their governments are laughing at us. And it's clearly a sign of dysfunction. One of the deeper concerns is that the fight that we're having about reopening the government is not about how to fix our fiscal situation, which it occasionally has been in the past. It's actually a debate about whether to keep spending levels where they are in discretionary spending or to increase them, to spend more on health care, and not by paying for it, but rather by borrowing, which would add more to the national debt. So I've got two huge concerns here. Our fiscal situation is unsustainable, and our government is not able to operate in a way that is dealing with all of these challenges. And the huge level of polarizations are making these fiscal challenges even more difficult to address. So I remain deeply concerned that we can't operate right now.
Right. So what do we do? I mean, the national debt is rising at an alarming rate. It is now nearing $38 trillion. As you know, that equates to more than $326,000 of debt per American taxpayer. My economists are warning of a weakening American dollar, other impact as well. Your reaction to this and the solutions that we need?
You bet. We have a very serious problem, and the first step is to actually talk about it honestly. Instead of politicians promising the sun, the moon, rainbows, unicorns, all sorts of things, we need to start talking about the situation as it is. We're going to reach record levels of debt never seen in this country before in just a few years. The problems start with looking at where the growth in the budget is. The largest areas of growth come from retirement and healthcare, and disturbingly, interest on the debt, which is growing faster than any other government program. Now, the things that I'll say are the opposite of what politicians say because they're not willing to level with American people, but we have to fix Social Security. It becomes insolvent in 7 years. We need to look at reasonable things like means testing, raising the retirement age, lifting the payroll tax cap. We have to change the way the healthcare system is delivered to generate savings. And we have $25 trillion in tax breaks over the next decade. We could limit a lot of those and help start to close this gap.
Yeah, it's a great point that you make, particularly about the Social Security age issue, because that seems like an easy one. It wouldn't affect the people who are very close to retirement. They're going to get what they expected. But younger people who may not even be expecting it, why not move the retirement age higher, given that we're living longer?
Absolutely. It could be win-win in terms of expectations. Yeah. When the program started, retirement age was 65, life expectancy was 62. So it made sense. Now the retirement age is up to 67 and life expectancy is in the 70s, 80s, 90s and growing quickly. Young people don't think they're going to get anything like you just said. So if we can lock in benefits, but you are expected to work longer, assuming that you're able to, they would come out ahead of where they think they're going to be. Nobody's touching current retirees' benefits. The AARP should stop trying to scare people and help become a part of the solution here. And we should talk about adjusting the program for the things that have changed in the way that we're all living our lives. So that's a great place to start. Everybody behind the scenes knows that it makes sense. It's just that politicians keep demagoguing it when it's a very reasonable policy.
Yeah, and by the way, I have asked Frank Bisignano this same question, and it seemed to me that he was thinking about that, and that was certainly a serious contender on the table. Of course, Frank Bisignano, the head of Social Security Administration, was just promoted. Scott Bessent made him the new chief executive officer of the IRS, creating this new leadership structure. and modernizing the IRS. So we wish him well on that role as well. Maya, walk us through what happens to these important agencies should we stay on this track that we're on right now, because I know that you've very much pointed out that Social Security will go insolvent in 10 years, Medicare, Medicaid also in trouble. So walk us through that as we await the details of this shutdown and what happens next, Maya.
Well, the interesting thing about government shutdowns now is that we are actually able to operate because we've left so many things exempt from a shutdown. If you really wanted to end shutdowns quickly, you'd actually shut down the government, and people would realize in a day or two that you can't function that way. But so many of these areas are exempt. People will still get their Social Security benefits. Most of the government will still work. I'll tell you where a big problem is going to be, though. A week from now, if members of the military do not get their paychecks, I think that's the first major pressure point. So on the 15th, those paychecks, I believe, need to go out. And if we get past there, we're looking at a much more serious shutdown. But you always have reporters trying to say all the effects of these things, and there's so few things that actually are affected. If you're going to a national park, it's terrible. But otherwise, most people don't really feel a government yet, but those paychecks would hit.
Yeah, I mean, the October 15th is the likely first missed military salary payment, as you mentioned. October 20th is likely the first missed federal worker payment as well. Maya, what kind of policies do you want to see in terms of spending? Because lawmakers have been saying over and over again they want to get back to pre-COVID spending. How do you get back to pre-COVID spending when you're talking about reissuing those Obamacare subsidies, which were given out during COVID, which was an emergency moment in time?
Exactly. What happens is anytime you offer a new government spending or tax cut for that matter, it is very hard to ever pull it back, even if it's supposed to be temporary, even if it's an emergency measure. The first thing we should do is the government spending that we're looking at extending to fund the government for the new fiscal year. We should go back to having spending caps. We did for the past 2 years. They were very helpful, and they've expired. We should extend spending caps as part of however we open the government and fund it for the next fiscal year. The second thing is we got to go back to, we have to start talking about how to generate structural savings in our healthcare and our retirement programs. And if all we do is talk about how to give away more money, these programs will become more entrenched. The sense that you shouldn't have to pay for things will become entrenched. Our debt will continue to explode. And as you alluded to before, the dollar's already there's a real risk to the dollar. And this role that we've had as the reserve currency is an incredible benefit to the U.S. We would be so silly and self-harm inflicting if we squander that right now, which we're on the way to by creating all this uncertainty and all this irresponsibility.
Yeah, the uncertainty is critical, and that's what, exactly what business people need to put money to work and invest in long-term projects, certainty. Maya, great to see you. Thanks very much for walking us through all of that. We appreciate your time.
Thanks, Maria.
Maya MacGuineas joining us. Stay with us. We'll be right back.